All right, we are now live in the Freedom Initiative Facebook group. I am glad to have Jenny Hale with me today, and she's going to talk about how you can learn to master your emotional world. Let me share you a little bit about Jenny. Jenny is the creator of the Hale Method, has an honors degree in psychology, and has decades of experience as a coach, trainer, and mentor. She supports people in having the results that they really want in business and in communities, kind of like this one here, as well as in family and romantic relationships. She has identified the fastest ways to break through disempowering lifelong patterns and achieve previously unimaginable results without doing years of expensive therapy. Without further ado, Jenny, thank you so much for being live with me today. Tell me a little bit about how someone can master their emotional world and why this is such an important thing for you to show others how to do.
Well, the important thing for me, why it's important to me, is because I did not learn this in my family of origin, right? So I came to adulthood believing that feelings are always just part of the problem, and whatever's going on, you've got to get all the feelings cleared out of the way and look at it logically, and then you can figure out what the problem really is and solve it logically.
Mm-hmm,
So
mm-hmm,
I was really doing life from my head. That's how I was trained, how I was raised, my school education, my home, my family, everything. That's how I was raised. And it was an incredibly stressful way to live, but I didn't know that. I discovered that when I had a burnout and my adrenals gave
mm-hmm,
out, and I had about a year where I couldn't work at all. And that's what made me go, hang on a minute. How did that happen? Why was I living in such a way that I was putting that much stress on my body? And the answer was because I wasn't managing my emotions. I didn't have any kind of relationship with my emotions. I was pretending they didn't exist. And I was very good at pretending they didn't exist. I had a lot of adrenaline in my system. I was a type A, go, go, go person. I was always busy. So I just had no time for feeling emotions. And they didn't bother me much. But they're still there. And physiologically in your body, they're still having an impact. It's taking a toll. And the amount of adrenaline you need to keep them suppressed also takes a toll. So I had to figure out how to live a different way in order to
mm-hmm,
survive, in order to be able to function and work and earn an income. I had to figure this all out for myself. So I'm passionate about getting this information to other people before they hit a brick wall like that.
mm-hmm, mm-hmm.
And also for people on the other end of the spectrum. One end of the spectrum is I don't have emotions, that don't bother me, I don't think about them, I live life more or less without them. But on the other end of the spectrum is the people whose emotions are super intense and
Yes.
unpredictable and overwhelming. And for those people, they can be made to feel in our culture like there's something wrong with them, like they're
Mm-hmm,
broken, like they're a lesser kind of person because they can't keep it together.
yeah.
And that is also completely untrue. And it made such a difference to me when I realized that it's a skill set. It's like being able to play
Mm-hmm,
the piano or speak German or disassemble an automobile and put it back together again. Like you have certain basic knowledge and you have certain skills that you've practiced. And the only thing is that me in my go, go, go type A world hadn't learned and practiced those skills. And the people whose emotions are overwhelming and they feel like their life is out of control, or sometimes that it's unbearable, even that the emotion's so bad it might just even kill them, they just haven't learned and practiced the skills either. It's not
right.
mysterious and woo, and you don't need some kind of therapist or guru to fix you. It's literally a set of skills that you practice.
Mm-hmm. So can I ask, which one were you, right? You said there's these individuals who possibly over-identify with their emotions and they're just emotional, as you said in one of your posts. Is it bad to be emotional, if other people call you that? Or they're individuals who are very detached from their emotions because of the overwhelming burnout they might be experiencing. Which one were you?
Well, I don't think I was detached from my emotions because of the burnout. I think I burned out
Mm,
because I was detached from my emotions.
mm,
Like, your emotions are a really important source of information about what's going on in your physiology. So if you block out that source of information, you block out your major measuring stick of how your body is doing, and how your whole life is doing, like how well suited it is, how well aligned it is with you as a being, whether you're like grinding your gears or whether you're like flying down the highway and, you know, on overdrive. Like, if you aren't in touch with your feelings, your emotions, the kind of sensory input that's coming from your body, you don't know. You might think you're flying down the highway in overdrive when actually you're grinding the gearbox and it's about to die. It's like going through life without being able to look at the dashboard.
Yeah. I really like
But
the visual connection you attach to these experiences, because I can visualize these things like, wow, it's not something people should have to go through, but a lot of people, I know they do, right? There's been a lot of conversations happening in the Facebook group about burnout, and interestingly enough, there's been some conversations about flow, and I found that some of the strategies and techniques to prevent burnout, stress, anxiety, and overwhelm are the same strategies and techniques to get into more of this flow state, which I think is really incredible. One thing I want to ask, because you said how you came across the need to regulate this overwhelm that you've been feeling, this burnout you're feeling. How did you actually come across the techniques and the strategies that you're now teaching in this emotional mastery methodology?
well, that was a bit of effort. This was the early 2000s, right?
Mm-hmm.
So most of
Yeah.
the stuff that's kind of readily available now did not exist. I was fortunate
Mm-hmm.
that I had a degree in psychology, so I had some understanding of kind of roughly the map of the territory. But there was a lot of stuff obviously not covered in academic psychology, still not being covered in academic psychology, that's in the program. So I went, you know, two different paths. I went an experiential path and I went a research path. I was like, okay, what's been published, what's out there? And
Mm-hmm.
one of the first things I came across was an organization that was talking about adult attachment disorders. Now, this is all the trend now. Everyone knows what attachment styles are now, but this is something that was completely unheard of back then, right? But there was this little ranch in California where you could actually go and have a retreat, and they would kind of help you work on your attachment issues. And that really got me researching, okay, what is going on? Why are we having adults who are behaving like neglected toddlers?
Mm-hmm.
And so that was my research path. My research path was, what are the things that are showing up for people emotionally in adulthood that actually can be traced back to missing steps in their childhood? And then through my own experience, I was looking for what's going to close that gap, what's going to enable me to do that thing. And the real driving force for this in the early stages was, I did go and I did various kinds of treatments and therapies and NLPs and all kinds of stuff.
Mm-hmm.
And at some point, I figured out that something had happened very early in my life, and the person that I was seeing as a psychoanalyst made some throwaway comment at the end of a session, like, you know, women with postnatal depression often fantasize about killing the infant rather than killing themselves. Like, when you're depressed, you fantasize about killing yourself, but with postnatal depression, the mothers just as much fantasize about killing the baby as killing themselves. And there was that just kind of unlocked something. And suddenly I had access to all this feeling, emotion that I had pushed down. And my theory on this is that was good. Something was going on for me as a baby where I felt like my life was in danger from my mother. But she was literally the only person in my world. Like, she was on the far side of the earth. My father had gone there for business. She had no community. It was just her and me. There was nobody else. So she was super stressed, you know, not attuned, under a lot of pressure. And the feeling that I had was that this wasn't a safe place. It wasn't safe to be here. My life was in danger, but I couldn't allow myself to feel that psychologically because I was 100% dependent on this person for my survival.
Right.
I
Yeah.
couldn't treat her like a threat. So I just pushed it like, I mean, when my system just pushed it all away.
Yeah.
So that I could continue to function and be fed.
Yeah.
And when
Wow.
I consciously became aware that this was a possibility, it all came back because now I didn't need to protect myself against that information anymore.
Interesting.
So it was like
Wow.
I'd been blind from birth, and then I had the cataracts operation, and suddenly I could see, but like it was just a wall of overwhelming color, and I had no idea what was what, and to figure out what things were. Is exactly like that, but in the feeling realm. Like suddenly I could feel everything. I was as raw as an exposed nerve, like a newborn baby, like it was just, and I was in a big city. There were people all around with all kinds of stuff going on. It was just like I had no boundaries or nothing. It was crazy making, but fortunately I knew what had happened. I didn't go, oh my God, I'm going crazy. I went, oh, look, I now have access to the feeling information, which I've not processed for my entire life. So obviously I'm illiterate with it, but I need to figure it out.
That goes amazingly deep. That it goes far back. That the things that affect us day to day can go as far back as your childhood. And now that I've gone through some of the emotional mastery course and I've gotten some of the information, it actually makes a whole lot of sense why. But for you to share your experience like that, it sounds a bit crazy, but I totally believe it at the same time. We do have some people tuning in and commenting. One is Valia. Hello, Valia. And she's asking here, what is the connection between thoughts and emotions? Is there a way to have a healthy relationship harmony? Question mark.
Well, that is a good question. You can have thoughts that arise from an emotion. So you have a wave of, for example, anger, and then you look for what is the problem here? What's the injustice? What's the boundary violation? Who's done something wrong? Like, what action do I need to take? Because anger is an action driving emotion. So your thought then might be, well, he shouldn't have parked there. So the thought has arisen from the emotion. But it can also happen the other way around. So you might see somebody's parked in your parking spot, and then you might think to yourself, well, they shouldn't have parked there. And now I'm going to have to drive around the block and I'm going to be late for my meeting and they're going to be disappointed with me and I'm going to have shame. And suddenly you're flooded with a whole bunch of emotions.
Yeah, that makes sense, right? So they are connected. They can trigger each other, right? A thought can trigger an emotion can trigger a thought. So going back to what we're talking about living with less overwhelm, living with less stress, anxiety, not letting heavy emotions afflict us, just letting them kind of just flow through. Is that a good way to put it?
Yeah, well, I think I would go one step further and say that if your family of origin didn't really give you a good grounding in managing emotions, and you're having intense emotions, you're probably experiencing them more intensely than a person whose family did give them a good grounding. So if you can actually rewire your nervous system to be the way that it would be if you'd had a good grounding, which you can do at any time, right? It's like you can get fit at any time. It's not like you have to have grown up in an athletic family to build up your cardiovascular fitness. You can get fit at any time. You can also get emotional regulation skills and emotional management skills at any time. When you do, a lot of the problem goes away because the emotions just feel less intense. Your subconscious does most of the work of regulating them. But if you haven't got those tools in place and your subconscious can't use them, then the emotions can seem incredibly, overwhelmingly loud and powerful. Like, honestly, I have clients saying to me, it feels like I'm going to die from this feeling. This is unbearable. I can't sit with this. It's too much. if that is going on, it's a sign that your family of origin didn't get your nervous system set up the way it should be. And if you just rewire your nervous system now, you can get it set up the way it should be, and you just won't have to deal with that. It's just not an issue anymore.
Wow. Yeah. Yeah. So you talked a bit before, right? This is so good. This is very important information. Like you said, a lot of this should be common knowledge. It should be public access. But for whatever reason, it's not really being covered in academic psychology, and it is building steam now. This whole concept of attachment is being more openly talked about. Why do you think that is, that it's not really covered in academic psychology when most people would say that, well, like academic psychology should cover it all? Like, why is that?
Well, it's a bit of a lag for a start.
Mm,
When new information is discovered in research, it takes a while for it to become generally known to the professionals in that field, and another period of time before it gets built into the academic curriculum, which might only be reviewed every 3 years, and it'll be reviewed by a bunch of people in their 60s who have vested interests in some theories that have been around for a long time. And so there are many structural obstacles to changing an academic curriculum. You could have new courses coming in. When a new course is created, that it's more likely to have some of the newer research in it, because the people who are creating it will go look, and they want it to be up to date when they create it. But a degree that's been around forever, your standard first year, second year, third year psychology in a mainstream university, like those curricula might only be reviewed every 5 years or so.
I see. Yeah. 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 It's very progressive, right? And I think why it's important that we need communities. We need communities that are a little bit more free to push things forward and share information that is truly beneficial. Because I feel that academics, traditional education is great, but sometimes it gets a little bit caught up in the hierarchy of things and too much in relation to just like business and what is practical, and what is like traditional information versus what is actually beneficial to people at large.
Yeah.
Valiant has another question here. So practically, we give our children and provide them with solid emotional grounding that sets them up to be better able to cope with these things than we do, or that we were.
Yep, 100%. And one of the things I hear most often from people who've done my program is, I'm so glad I learned this before I had my own kids, or I really wish I'd learned this before I had my own kids. Like to understand what we need, what as children, means we can give it to our children and our grandchildren, by the way. There's a lot of people that I've worked with whose parents had all kinds of issues, but there was a grandparent around who actually provided them with the emotional grounding that they needed.
Yeah, it's interesting. I'm getting additional questions from Valia. I'll share with you in a moment. I think that's great, because a lot of what I've encountered with different entrepreneurs in different industries, a lot of people talk about like breaking generational curses. And at first, I thought it was this blanket term, like, oh, generational curse. But now that I'm talking to different individuals, like a generational curse can be a different thing. There's the generational curse of not having abundance in finances, of not saving, investing, of being stuck in this employee mindset, which is something that I deal with in my financial services business. There is this generational curse of family violence, of trauma within a family, especially with aggressive men. And now we're talking about these generational curses with emotions, not having effective strategies for co-regulation. I got another question from Valia here. And it's interesting because I know that Valia is an emotional mastery coach. So I'm not sure if she's asking these questions because she wants to know them, which I think she would know a lot about this as an emotional mastery coach, or if she's just asking them to push the interview and push the conversation forward. But I'll ask it regardless. So she's asking how. How do we practically do it? So this idea of giving children solid emotional grounding that sets them up to be better able to cope with these heavy emotions better than we do. How do we practically do it was actually her question.
Sure. Look, what we need as a growing nervous system, that the challenge we have as a species is this big brain, which has given us our edge and it's made us dominate the whole planet. But the birth canal is only so wide, right? So only a certain amount of brain development can happen in the womb, and a lot of it has to happen after we're born, which means that as a species, we are way more sensitive to the environment in our first few years of life than, say, a horse or a dog or a cat might be. So the nervous system that is still unformed, the emotional regulation system is not fully formed until we are 8 years old. So for those first 8 years of life, more so at the beginning, but all the way through, when we have a really big emotion that, and when you're 2, that can be, I got my juice in the wrong colored cup. That can produce a really big emotion. By the time you're 8, it's bigger things that produce the big emotions. But when you've got a big emotion, it's too much for you as a child. It's too much for your system. You can't process it by yourself. So what you need is a big, reassuring adult person to come along, to come to your level, to be with you and to feel it with you. And their fully developed emotional system will regulate the intensity of that emotion automatically. We call this visceral empathy, the connecting with somebody so cleanly that you can feel in your body what's going on in their body. It's a natural ability that human beings have. We do it through the mirror neurons and electromagnetic and subconscious nonverbal signals. It's all scientific. It's not woo at all, but you can literally tune into somebody and start to feel in your body what they're feeling in their body. And that's what children need their adults around them to do for them. And when the child repeatedly has this experience of somebody comes along, is feeling it with them, and then that person calms down and the child calms with them because they're interconnected, that's how the child's system learns how to do it, from having someone do it with them over and over and over and over. So there's a certain minimum amount of that you need in order to master that at a subconscious level. And if you don't get that much of it, then even past the age of 8, you still can't regulate your own emotions.
I see.
So you get people who come into adulthood and they get their juice in the wrong colored cup and they just lose it.
It's funny. I'm gonna ask some questions of personal interest for myself, and dealing with my daughters who are 3 and 6, and also my wife that I've been married to for several years. And I hope that I ask these questions in a way that other people out there who have kids or spouses can also benefit from the information that you're about to share. So I have my 3-year-old daughter. Let's say she goes through a tantrum, and let's say the tantrum is started because she just can't do that one activity that day that she thought she was going to be able to do. Let's say we were going to do painting outside. Well, unfortunately, it started raining, so we can't paint outside. We try to explain that to her, but she just won't have any of it. She's tantruming, she's crying, she's angry, she's on the floor, kicking and flailing. She's obviously going through some emotional overwhelm. As a father who's watching this unfold, based on the information you have with the techniques and the strategies that you know so well, what would you suggest to a dad like me to do in a situation like this?
Well, the most important thing that she needs is she needs your presence with her in that. So you get down on the floor beside her and you validate verbally, because that's also teaching her to do this for herself. Like, I get it. This is really disappointing. You wanted to paint outside and now it's raining and you can't paint outside. Yeah, that's a really upsetting thing. right? So you're letting her know that it's okay to feel this thing. And then you tune in as best you can to what she's feeling.
Mm-hmm.
And you be with her while she feels it for however long it takes. It will pass.
Mm-hmm.
You know, a few minutes usually, and it blows over.
Mm-hmm.
So you be with her through the whole thing until it passes, and then give her a hug or whatever she wants to sort herself out. And then go, okay, so what do you want to do now?
Hmm. Interesting. I feel that most parents, and this is really good because, like you said, you've had clients and individuals go through the program, go through the course, go through the coaching, and they say things like, "Oh, I'm so glad that I went through this before I had children or when my children are so young," because they immediately know that they can impact their lives for the greater good right then and there, which is just an amazing benefit in itself. But I feel the natural inclination would be for a parent to say, "Oh, just stop that. Oh, it's no big deal. We can
Mm-hmm.
paint tomorrow.
Mm-hmm.
You're being dramatic. It's not a big problem. We can go do something else inside the house." But it seems that even though that might get to the result that the parent is looking for, which is removing themselves or getting past that very uncomfortable situation, it's not in the best interest. It's not in the best development for the child. Is that right?
When that intense emotion is going on,
Mm-hmm.
the higher brain functions don't work. So you might think you're reasoning with the child.
Mm-hmm.
You might think that you're convincing her that the best thing to do is to go and do something else. But what's actually happening psychologically and physiologically is that her fear of your disapproval is stronger than the emotion, and she's using it to suppress that emotion somehow, to hide it,
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
because you clearly don't like it.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Right. So if she's suppressing it and hiding it, then it is stuck inside her.
Mm-hmm.
It's if you just be with her while it moves through, it will be gone. And as
Mm-hmm.
soon as it's gone, she will have the mental capacity to think about what she wants to do next.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
But in the middle of the storm, she doesn't have that mental capacity.
Mm-hmm.
So you don't get reason and understanding when you talk someone out of a tantrum. What you get is
Mm-hmm.
compliance and suppression.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Mm. Yeah, that makes sense. Wow. This is really good. I am learning a lot from our conversation here, where I feel as an educator, as someone who taught elementary grades, I taught fourth grade for a handful of years. There's information here that even I am finding a lot of awesome takeaways from. Another concept that is quite common, and it's with adults too. It's with adults and it's with kids. Like you have that kid who's acting up, they're emotional, they're having a tantrum. I feel, and I've seen it firsthand too, that a lot of parents will just give them a timeout. They'll just isolate them and say, "Hey, you sort it out yourself, and when you're ready to talk to mom and dad, when you're ready to be normal and functioning, and you want to have some family time, then you can return to us." And I also see it with adults too, where an adult, a friend, a family member is being emotional, they're being difficult, they're having a traumatic episode, and we just feel like, well, we'll talk to you later. You sort it out, and then you come back to us. And it seems that that isn't exactly the most beneficial thing to do for individuals who, well, they just really need a little bit more nurture, comfort, and attention. Um, so what you're talking about here, like sitting with the individual who's going through a lot of trauma, who is emotionally overwhelmed, you're saying to sit with them, feel what they're feeling, let them write it out, and then after those negative emotions have dissipated and gone away, then you can reason with them a little bit more. They can be a little bit more logical. So this idea of sitting with these individuals when they're being difficult, is it is it instinctive that we sit with them and spend more time with them, or is it instinctive that we want to walk away from them and let them calm down until they're more capable of being talked to? Because I could see it being both ways, right? Like instinct, empathy, you want to comfort people who are going through some bad episodes, but also instinct, I could see that, hey, this is uncomfortable. I'm just going to go do something else because I don't want to deal with it. What do you think is more aligned with natural human behavior?
Well, we don't see a lot of natural human behavior. What is going to feel instinctive to you is to do what your parents did with you,
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
right? For good or for bad.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
So, this desire to comfort somebody who's upset can be just as suppressive as leaving them alone. Because if you're going to comfort them because their emotions make you uncomfortable and you just want them to calm down as fast as possible so that you can feel comfortable again, you're going to be pushing them to suppress that emotion even while you're patting them on the head and saying, there, it's not that bad.
Mm-hmm.
We're super good at picking up the other person's intention. We can tell if somebody has just come to keep us company while this emotion goes on, or whether they've come with an agenda of getting us to stop having the emotion. We can tell.
Mm-hmm.
Like the way to think this through as an adult, the biggest thing that will help people to understand this is when somebody has had a death in the family, right? And there is absolutely nothing you can do to make that pain stop for them. We know that what we need to do is show up at their house, bring them food, sit with them, let them talk about the person they're missing or express whatever's going on. We just keep them company. We do it when someone's died, or at least a portion of us do it.
Yeah.
Some workplaces are, well, we gave you a day off for the funeral, so now get on with it.
Yeah. Right. Yeah.
But with our friends, with people we care about, we do understand that when there is nothing you can do to change the emotion, all you can do is keep the person company.
Interesting. Yeah. That's really good because this is something that I am experiencing more in my life. I'm in my 30s and I have relatives who are older, aunts and uncles, great aunts, great uncles who are beginning to pass away, or sometimes there's unexpected deaths in families. And I generally feel like I don't know what to say. As someone who feels like a very good communicator, I almost feel bad that I'm in these situations and I'm trying to find the words to offer my condolences, and I just don't know what to say, and it makes me uncomfortable. And it seems to be that the solution is actually quite simple. Well, it's not even really a solution. It's just what you can do to make them feel a little bit better is just be present, just to feel some of that sorrow with them. It doesn't even have to be vocalized. It's just being with them, and by your presence showing them that you support them and what they're going through.
Yep, that makes so much difference. It's a relatively small thing, even if you visit them for 15 minutes but you're present and connected during that time, that will have more benefit than if you at their house for 6 hours and you cook them 3 meals and do all their laundry.
Yeah, yeah. I feel that is something that a lot of people do too, where if there's a death in the family, then family and friends will try to help them by doing things that they're not able to do for themselves. But that may not be what they need. What they need is some of that very important, very healthy co-regulation that we're talking about. Very interesting, very interesting. One thought that comes to mind is this idea and concept of empathy, right? It's so important. I know it as a teacher, as a dad. I know it very well. And growing up, I was raised by my mom mostly. My dad was busy working during the hours that we're often at home. And also I have like two sisters, right? Like the empathy, the nurture that comes from that feminine energy is just very prevalent in my life. And I have two daughters. I don't have any sons. I sense it from them too. But I almost feel that as individuals get older, like this empathy muscle, or this ability to empathize with other individuals, it almost like dissipates. It almost like diminishes. Like I see it so strongly with my girls. My girls are very sensitive. They have a lot of empathy, and as you get older, like, oh well, sucks for them. It's too bad for them. I'm glad that's not me. I don't want to deal with it. What are your thoughts on that?
Well, there are different kinds of empathy. So,
Mm-hmm.
what little kids have is this visceral empathy, like another child starts to cry and they will start to cry. They
Yes.
feel what the other child feels so
Yeah.
readily.
Yeah.
But life is pretty sucky if
Mm-hmm.
you are that open to other people's emotions 24/7. When you go
Mm-hmm.
into a daycare in the morning and there's all these kids who've just been separated from their parents in utter misery, if you're open, viscerally empathic, even though you're totally chilled with your parents leaving you there, you're going to be as miserable as the most miserable kid until they finally cheer up at 11 or 12.
Mm-hmm.
Right. So you have to learn to tune down that visceral empathy in order to function.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Interesting.
But then, some people tune it down too much. Some people have a lot of intense emotion in their home with their family, and they just tune
Mm-hmm.
their own radar right down. It's like, I'm not here. I'm under the bed. I'm not feeling any of this. And it becomes habitual. And then they can't connect with other people in that same way.
What would you call the opposite of this visceral empathy? This lack of embracing empathy, or when you're kind of numb to the feelings of others? Do you
It's
have a
a
word for that?
it's a separation.
Hmm.
It's a visceral isolation, maybe would be a way to put it.
I see. Yeah. So it's
It's
not
kind of
empathy, it's
lonely, but it's
isolation. Yeah.
safe.
And what would you call this healthy level of empathy? If you have visceral empathy, if you have visceral isolation, is there a phrase that you have within the emotional mastery jargon
Well,
for a
what's
healthy level of
healthy is to
empathy?
have the flexibility to move
Uh,
between the two, so that
uh,
when you have a 3-year-old who's having an emotional meltdown, you can open up the visceral empathy 100% and be
mm,
present. But
mhm,
when you are, having some aggressive dude coming at you in the parking lot because they wanted your parking space, you can be isolated from that and not let it
mm,
affect you. So you want to be
mhm,
able to move your level of openness based on the situation. Is this emotional environment something I want to be open to? Is it in my best interest to be open here?
mhm. Interesting. Yeah. So what I'm coming away with is that emotions are a choice. And I know it may sound funny because, yeah, like, of course, emotions are a choice, but I feel that many individuals out there are victims of their emotions, where they're reacting to situations, and because of that, they feel like they have no control over their emotions. And, just what you're saying here, where you can choose the level of empathy you want to engage in based on the situation. In this situation, is it beneficial to really empathize with your tantruming 3-year-old daughter who can't paint outside? Or is it more beneficial to do some of this visceral isolation because someone is pointing a gun at you and you can't freak out? You have to keep your composure to try to talk your way out of that situation. So that is really interesting. I could go on and talk to you about these things for hours, and I know you like to talk about these things too, which is why you do what you do. You lead this awesome community of coaches. You're trying to spread this information with as many individuals out there. So as a family man, I've talked about my tantruming daughters. Sometimes I have an angry wife, I have an angry spouse. So I'll share with you a situation that may or may not have happened, and you can say based on these strategies what you would suggest to someone like me to do. So let's say I'm out with my wife and my two daughters. It's a nice day. We're at a park. My wife and I have some miscommunication. My wife asks me to do something and I don't quite understand. I bring the wrong thing from the car. She's upset and she scolds me, points her finger at me in front of my daughters, saying, "Oh, you're such a bad boy. You're a bad boy." I get upset. I get angry because I'm being scolded at in front of my daughters and some friends, and I do something like I pick up something from the table that we're having lunch at. I pick up like a French fry and I throw it at my wife, and now no one's happy. Now my wife is angry because I threw a French fry at her. I'm upset and angry because I've been scolded. My daughters are there having a great time. They have no idea how angry mom and dad are at each other. My wife and I, we know it's beneficial for us to like make up, to just apologize and move on from that. But we're so heated, we're so angry that none of us want to apologize. No, none of us even want to say the first word to the other. So there's obviously a lot of overwhelming emotion and negativity going on. So based on the strategies that you know so well, what would you suggest in a situation like this?
Well, the first thing I would say is that an apology is not the beginning of the reconnecting process. It comes pretty much towards the end.
Yeah.
So if you've had a rupture in your connection, basically it means that your nervous system is treating the other person as a threat.
Mm-hmm.
And you're not going to want to be empathic and connected
Mm-hmm.
with a threat,
Mm-hmm.
right? So the first thing that has to happen is for both of you to physiologically come back to a state of physiological safety,
Mm-hmm.
so that your bodies are not treating the other person like they're a physical threat.
Mm-hmm.
So you might even need to kind of physically move apart, take one daughter each and go for a walk in different directions, or, go to
Mm-hmm.
another room or whatever, but like, to separate, and then to do some of the calming exercises to reduce the amount of adrenaline in your body, long out breaths, maybe you put your face in cool water, that kind of thing. Just, there's a lot of wisdom in these folk remedies when you go into it, putting your face in, splashing cold water on your face. Like, there's actually a dive reflex that mammals have. When they dive into water, their adrenaline levels drop, their heart rate drops, their oxygen consumption drops. And if you put this part of your face under water, you trigger that reflex. So your adrenaline levels instantly drop, your heart rate drops. So it's actually a very fast way to change your state. And once you've got to a point where at least one of you is feeling physiologically safe, then you do co-regulation with each other. Just so imagine it's you, right? So you go to the toilet block and put your face in water and rebalance yourself and come back, right? So now you're cool, calm, and collected and able to co-regulate. Your wife is still the 3-year-old who's melting down inside.
Mm-hmm.
So you do literally the same thing that you would do with your upset 3-year-old. You say, I get it. You asked me to get something from the car. I got the wrong thing. That is super frustrating. I understand you're really frustrated right now. And then you connect and you feel it with her. And it will pass.
Wow. Yeah.
And then apologies will work.
Yeah. Because then if you apologize too soon and you don't really feel it, you don't really mean it, well, it doesn't really serve anyone because people can sense it. You don't really mean that.
Yeah.
Say it like you mean it. No one's ever going to say it like they mean it if they don't mean it. But this is really great. This is very valuable information. I'm learning more as I talk to you, as I engage and interact with you in this community, as I communicate and interact with the other emotional mastery coaches. I know that there's a lot of benefit to be had from these very simple practices, techniques, and strategies that just are not taught in schools, they're not taught in families, and it's like we're playing catch up. We're playing catch up to break another kind of generational curse, as we're talking about, and that's to help future generations, starting with our children, starting with us, to learn how to live better and more fulfilled lives just because they understand the simple concept of effective and healthy co-regulation. I feel that I may have gotten more benefit from this interview than other people listening out there. If you're listening, I hope you got a lot of awesome takeaways and information as well. Um, just want to wrap it up and conclude. So, individuals have been tuning into this and they want to know more about the emotional mastery course, the program, how it can benefit them. And I highly recommend it. I thought I knew enough about emotional mastery, but even from this conversation with Jenny, I'm still finding incredible and awesome takeaways because I haven't fully integrated and implemented the things that I've been learning. So, what would you say to individuals who are wanting a little bit more information on what it is that we're talking about?
Yeah. Well, that stuff about repairing ruptures, that's week 13.
Mm,
Just FYI, since you still have access to the course materials.
thank you.
So we have, we'll put a link under here
Sure, yeah.
to places where you can go to get more information or to book a call to talk to someone about it. You can also ask questions underneath the video. Like if you catch the replay and put some questions there, I'll keep coming back and checking. And my coaches are in the group. I have coaches all around the world in all different time zones. So
Mm,
there's probably going to be a coach awake when you are. So if you put your question in, you may find one of the coaches jumps in and answers it before I even wake up and answer it myself.
mm, mm.
And you can also join our Facebook group, which is called Emotional Mastery. If you just search Facebook for Emotional Mastery, you'll find it. We'll put the link in under the video.
Sounds good. Yeah, there's lots of information available, and as we know, as businessmen, as entrepreneurs, we are looking to be profitable from helping people. But what I really appreciate and value about Jenny and the emotional mastery coaches is there is so much free information. There's complimentary discovery calls where they can walk you through these strategies and techniques. They're really here to just help you get the foundations in so that you can begin to implement these strategies on your own. And if you would want to work more with them as a client, then that is an option also. But that's not their mission. Their mission is to really give people these tools that they didn't get in their families or in the schools. So I just want to say thank you, Jenny. Thank you for going live with me and allowing me to ask you these questions. And I look forward to supporting you and all the emotional mastery coaches. Thanks again.
Thanks for the great questions. And thanks also, Valia, for the great questions.